Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 33. Nickelodeon on the old cable, the cable guide, if you remember when you were younger.
Scottie Pippen episode.
Great Hill?
Of 3 in the Keystone. The dog days of February are upon us, guys. If it wasn't fact beforehand, having finally being in the podcast business, February is the worst month for sports.
Oh,
We are in a dead period.
I don't know about that. July is pretty rough.
July, maybe second.
July has the one specific day in the year where there's no sports.
Yeah, but that's a day. We record every week.
Yeah, I understand that, but still, there's nothing going on in early July. But
no, NBA free agency. NBA free agency is a party.
Yeah, but that's for like 3 days max. You go like July 10th. What's happening July 10th after the All-Star game? That Wednesday after the All-Star game is nothing.
I get, but you got training camp.
Not yet.
Beginning like mid July.
Yeah, I'm talking about like, well, it's not training camp. I bet the All-Star break for baseball.
Yeah, no. July.
That day after the All-Star game is brutal. That week really is brutal.
Guys, this isn't the point of like, aren't we trying to get more listeners?
So
don't listen to us in July, folks. That's the message here.
But
give us ideas.
I think if there was one topic that ended up being the lead, it was a gift that was given to us last night with the disgusting NBA All-Star game.
Right.
And I have a few things to rant about the game itself. But Al, I'm going to throw it to you. You wanted to start with All-Star Saturday night and your thoughts on how that's gone in the past and this year.
Yeah, I did. And mostly because I've always been a big fan of the NBA's All-Star weekend. And I think they do a lot of things right. And I think they showcase their stars probably better than any of the other leagues when it comes to the All-Star game and the weekend itself. However, there's some changes that need to be made after I watched it this past weekend. So first of all, the celebrity game on Friday, which I forgot to mention to you guys before we started recording, the celebrity that's got to go entirely.
I actually thought this year's wasn't that bad.
There's no place for the Miz and some like host from Brazil, some television host from Brazil. My buddy, he thought it was Rick Fox.
That's the thing, that they picked the wrong people for it. But the game this year, actually, I didn't think was that bad. But in previous years, it's been stupid. I agree with that.
But I also think it's an insult to, in that game, they have legitimate WNBA players. I think that's an insult to them.
No, I agree 100%. Yeah.
So that was the first. Now, Adam, if you want to say anything about the celebrity game,
was that, I saw a clip on Instagram. Was that legitimately Albert Pujols?
Yes.
What happened to him?
Dude, he's been big. He's just had a baseball jersey instead of a tank top.
Dude, he looked like an offensive guard.
Yeah, he's been
like Isaac Sayamalu. I couldn't believe that was him.
Maybe the Eagles should sign him. Yeah, he's
holy retirement. He really let it go.
Dude, he's 42.
I understand, but dude, he was looking huge.
Remember how slow he was getting out of the box the first base?
I get it now.
How slow do you think he is going end line to end line?
I saw the clip. He picked somebody's pocket though.
No, he was actually he played half decent. I actually watched that game more than I watched it on Saturday, but it was I think he's just always been that, well, not always, but the last couple of years at least, been that big. You just couldn't tell because you got a big bulky baseball jersey on.
I'd have to think he's put on 15 pounds since October. Like he's a big dude, but he's big. He looked like
more than that.
I couldn't believe that was him on the clip. Like it said Albert Pujols, and I looked at it 5 times. I couldn't believe it.
What's his? I'm looking up his weight. Albert Pujols' weight.
I would guess he's like 285.
280. Oh, there's no way this is true.
What's it say?
This says 236. Not a chance.
What, in 2002?
Not a chance.
That ain't right.
And then it says Aaron Judge is 282. If Aaron Judge is 282, Pujols weight
50 pounds on Pujols.
I could not believe that was him. Crazy.
Oh man.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm done with the celebrity game. I just think that they have to attract bigger celebrities or they have to scrap it, which I don't understand why there's not bigger celebrities that want to play in this game.
I think that's what it is. Remember the Rock and Jock MTV game?
Yeah, the best.
They were awesome. They got to bring something, like they need to make it like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to do that, like those games attracted big names. Like they had legit people in those games. Like these ones are like niche following people and like YouTube people and all kind of stupid crap that like it's a mix of like I'd say probably like a third or a fourth of them are okay to be in it, and then the rest of them are just like I don't know who you are or care who you are.
But do you think part of that is us getting older?
No,
Yeah.
because we're not ancient. We're in our 30s. So
I
it's
hear
not
you,
like
but like
60
these
something.
YouTube people and stuff like that, like those are people that maybe we're not as aware. The TikTok
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, Chris.
I saw a
Don't,
list of like the largest TikTokers in the
Yeah.
country. Like the top 20. I didn't know one of them.
No, I don't know.
yeah, Chris. Don't discount. Like I have no problem with the content creators. We don't know them because we're not in that game anymore. But
I wish we did know some of them.
I had more of a problem with some of those older guys I didn't know. But wait a minute. Here's a trivia question for you because you brought up Rock and Jock. Do either of you remember the two teams' names in Rock
Oh
and
yeah,
Jock?
the Violators and the Bricklayers.
Oh,
Bro, I was there,
coming,
dog.
coming
I watched every year,
coming
dude.
in hot. Wait, who were the team captains?
Wasn't it like Bill Bellamy and Dan Cortez?
That's a wrap, folks. That's a wrap.
Dude, it ain't getting better
That's
than that the
wild.
rest of the episode. So
Oh. Gary Payton was the first player to hit the 50-point shot. Remember they had the
yeah, it
bump
was like 40
leg
feet in
up?
the air.
Yeah, he was the first one to hit one. All right.
That shit was
So
awesome.
moving on to Saturday though. So Saturday is known now for three competitions, right? We have the skills competition, the 3-point competition, which a lot of people in the last like 5 years have said has surpassed the dunk contest as kind of the main event Saturday night, and then the dunk contest. I want to start with the skills competition. That's another one that should just go.
That's awful.
It's horrible.
It's never been good.
Oh my God. And why do they drag it out and do 3 different things? They do the passing, the obstacle course, and the shoot. It's so weird.
And why do the Antetokounmpos have to be in it?
Right. What
Were they
did
all
they
in it?
earn?
Yeah, that's the whole gimmick because they're all brothers in the leagues that are always every year in this freaking contest.
Yeah, so stupid.
It's always them, the host team or city, and
like the Rising Stars
random.
thing. Yeah.
So it's 3 trios. And I would honestly, and I wouldn't see it as disrespectful in this sense. I would honestly rather see 3 of the best WNBA players do that together if you're going to have some kind of team skills competition.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And they
Does
don't
the
even
WNBA have a like a Saturday night equivalent?
I think they just have the all. Do they even have an all-star game?
They have an
they
all-star
to have an
game.
all-star
It's
game.
on like Sunday afternoon, whenever like in the summertime. But I don't know if they had like a festivities thing or not.
Did you watch that skills competition though, Chris?
No,
the problem is like they don't care. Like they were moving so slow, like they weren't trying to win. So you're just watching 9 guys out there like goof around for an hour. It was terrible.
Is it still the same where like you got to make a half court shot at the end?
It's a little different. The first one's an obstacle course.
Right.
The second one's like they have these 3 passing, like these big
hoops
circles, and you got to like go around and like they're doing the weave almost and passing
right
like rapid fire. And then the last one is like a shooting contest. But I didn't even watch the last 2 really. I fast forwarded it because it was so stupid. The first one was so dumb. Yeah. That brings me to the 3-point contest. I don't think the 3-point contest is the main event. And I think that what's ruining the 3-point contest a little bit is all the hubbub that they're throwing into it. There's money balls all over the friggin' court.
Yep.
There's like 27 feet shots with these like silver balls. It's too much. Just let the guy shoot.
Yeah.
They've overcomplicated everything.
He did.
I do think that it's the best of the 3 events for the most part, normally. Because the NBA, the dunk contest is too inconsistent.
Right.
And the 3-point shootout, normally they have like legit dudes, like Dame did it this year. Steph's done it a couple times. Like Reggie used to do it back in the day. Pedro Stojakovic. Like they had legit snipers that have been in this for all these years. So it's fun. But the dunk contest is the one that, like, if it's great, it tends to mean that the whole night was pretty good. If it's not, then the whole night's a disaster. Like if the 3-point shootout won't save the night.
The excitement that could come from the 3-point shootout is capped. Like you can only get so excited about 3-pointers going in.
And they're so good now that it's almost like, all right, we're just watching them. I mean, even in the All-Star game, they were like spotting up from half court, like 4 or 5 possessions in a row, and like knocking down threes from half. It's ridiculous how good these guys are now.
Right. Yeah. The 3-point shootout has the high floor but the low ceiling, and then the dunk contest has the low floor and the high ceiling. So this year, though, we were treated to one of those dunk contests, I believe, where it exceeded expectations. You know, we got Mac McClung, who
Hometown
everybody
boy.
we knew going into it, right? We knew going into it. I was waiting for him to play the song. I wish they would have played the song.
Yeah,
When
that would have been nice.
I didn't know. I knew he was a Texas Tech kid, I think, right?
Yeah, and then Georgetown and then Texas Tech.
Yeah, I remember him in college. I didn't know. I knew that the Sixers signed him recently or traded for him or whatever it was recently to the G League, but I didn't. I assumed he was nice being a small white boy in the dunk contest from the G League. I assumed he had hops, so I was still surprised he won, but he put on a pretty nice little show though. He was legit.
Yeah, he was good. I only saw the clips on Instagram. Like I didn't see much else, but yeah, he looked like he brought the crowd to his feet.
Yeah, he was legit.
Had you guys never seen any of his clips from high school?
No,
I knew his name, but I hadn't done enough research to know. And I knew like his reputation that he was a dunk guy from high school, but I hadn't seen any of his clips.
Okay, because like the 540 that was out there, like if you knew him and you knew it, like you knew that was coming.
Okay.
And then the one where the first dunk, I can't remember if he had done that jumping over someone, but I had seen it before where he hit the backboard and then brought it down. Yeah, but still, I mean, still just an amazing to pull every single dunk off on the first try.
I was going to say
that's my issue with the dunk contest. Is in the past few years, and correct me if I didn't watch any of it this week. Are they on a clock now and they have a certain amount of time?
It's a minute 30, and it's either a minute 30 or 3 attempts.
It should so they have 3 attempts.
Yes, yeah.
It should be a point off every time you miss a dunk.
Well, it's the Birdman rule.
It's just like
Birdman's about to fly.
Like, the dunk loses its luster if I see what you're doing and you miss it 3 times and you finally finish it. It just loses its luster. It's hard to give a guy a 10 after I've seen you miss it 4 times.
Well, when Nate Robinson beat Iguodala that year, and he tried it for it took him a minute and a half to get the dunk in, and then they still gave him a 10. I'm like, bro, we watched him make a fool out of himself for a minute and a half.
Right. And the judges are too lenient. They're just like 10, 10, 10. What happened to 5 should be average. That's what it is. Everybody shouldn't just get 10s because they pull off a nice dunk. It's
Karl Malone was given low numbers on
it. Some of the OGs don't. Yeah, some of the OGs are they keep it real. Some of them.
I didn't realize. Did you see a story about him that came out today that he got a 13-year-old girl pregnant when he was?
You didn't know that? You didn't know that?
That's not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's not a new thing.
Yeah, I was really stunned. I mean, I get there in Utah, but I mean, that's rough to be displaying to put him out there like that when people know about that pass.
How long ago did that come out?
A long time. I've known that for a long time.
While he was playing.
I don't remember knowing it while he was playing, but I remember knowing it at least 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a
Let's
while.
move on.
And apparently all he does is stays out in the boondocks and fishes and hunts, and it's probably because she doesn't want to have any BS from dealing with that.
Right. Yeah. That's why you never hear from him. But yeah, so I'm a big fan of even the years that it stinks, I like it. I think where the NBA drops the ball is they gotta I get that not everybody is breaking down the door to join this contest, but they got to get guys that are a little bit more showmen, because I think that makes a difference way more than the missing of the dunks, because you can miss the dunk once or twice as long as you're kind of a showman. Like Blake Griffin, the year he won, I don't know if you remember the first dunk he attempted. It was this wild 360 that it was like a force of nature, him throwing that thing down. And he missed the first 2, but when he hit it the third time, people were still hyped because of him. So I think you got to get guys with more personality out there, more so than just guys that can dunk.
Who are the other guys besides Jericho Sims?
KJ
Martin
Jr. And who was the guy that went? The guy from the Pelicans. I don't remember his name already.
Trey Murphy.
Oh, Trey Murphy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is there anything you guys would fix or change? Because I love the dunk.
I just wish that they would have some way to have incentive to get stars in it. I know Ja the other day said he wouldn't do it. Someone else said that too.
Zion said he would do it, I think. But
yeah, he said he would consider it for next. Yeah, but back in the day when they were trying to convince Kobe to do it again after he was already. I mean, he did it back when he was a kid, but as a made dude, trying to get him back in it and other guys like that. One thing that's funny is if you go back now and watch the old OG dunk contest from the 80s, it's kind of sad. They thought that was so lit, a one hand spin dunk, and they're like, oh my god, and now that's bro, we got 13-year-olds doing that.
Yeah, the windmill. The windmill was huge for a
Oh
while.
yeah. Like
I mean,
even
listen-
J.R. Ryder when he did the under the legs, that was huge back in when we were
Yeah.
kids. Like that was like the best dunk ever. And now it's so like routine. It's like not even a thing anymore. Like if they did that now, they'd be like, all right, what else you got?
Vince's dunks. The year Vinsanity was born. The
I
year
don't know,
the year
man.
Let's Go Home was born. But Kenny
Yeah.
Smith
and Jason Richardson was really good
He was
too.
good. Dude,
was.
the
He
the
was.
dunk that Vince had when he did this the 360 under the leg, whatever, like that's still like if someone did that right now, I would still be like, yo, that's nasty. Like that was insane.
I also think though, again, it's like the way he pulled it off too.
Yeah.
Like it was real smooth, but also just his, the showmanship afterwards. I think.
Yeah.
I
made that
think
feel better.
to answer your question now, one thing I would change is the NBA is set on this becoming a developmental contest for like up and coming players. And if you're gonna do that, then make it where, since it's Wild West now at this point with NCAA, top 4 projected kids in the draft, put them in the dunk contest. Let's see them off the bat before they even get to the league. Get their names out there like Scoot Henderson, Ship Wembenyama's behind over here. Like put them in the dunk contest. Let the world see them right at that big stage before they get drafted, and see what they got.
I don't
Maybe
hate
that
that
would help a
idea.
little bit.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate that. But
I
the,
mean-
the NCAA does that too, though. They do the dunk contest as well.
Yeah, but it's
Obviously.
Yeah, but it's
No,
not the same.
I know.
Look, to your points, like Chris, I remember when we were in high school when All Star Saturday Night was a big deal. Like we would hang out, we would all sit in the basement, we would go and watch it. And whether it's the fact that it's just the dunk contest, as we've seen it all at this point, and it's not as entertaining, or we've gotten older and priorities have changed. It's just not it doesn't move my needle at all.
I still get excited for it, but then like it's disappointing when you see the participants, especially for the dunk contest.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, like Trey
Yeah.
Murphy, cool. All right. Mac McClellan, not even like he's not even in the NBA, but he must be all right. What's his name? Jericho Sims. Like that doesn't move.
Or last year, Obi Toppin.
Yeah, that doesn't move me. But I still like I like the night. I still try to watch it from home. I watch it. I'd rather watch it, to your point out. I think you said the same thing. I'd rather watch it and be like, oh, it was whatever, than to not watch it and miss something.
And I just think, yeah, exactly, because Adam, you said that we haven't seen it all. I mean, this past Saturday, we saw at least 2 dunks that we've never seen before on that stage.
That's true, but there's no guarantee anymore that you're going to see something new.
I get that. I think I like that there's like a lull. I like the lull because then when a year like this happens, it makes that much better. Like the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine year.
Yeah.
That was
What
magnificent.
about putting more people in it than 4?
I don't think they can get more people. Like they struggle to get 4.
Yeah. Guys are
I mean, like if that would make like if it's a full like 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 matchup dunk contest, you think that would make it?
I'll tell you what they should
In a
do.
perfect world, you can get whoever you want for 8 dudes, and you had that. Would that make it better?
They should get the YouTube dunkers on.
Yeah,
That's another idea too.
Get the guys that are professional dunkers.
And a lot of those cats think they're better than NBA guys anyway.
Yeah.
So put them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea either, actually.
let's move
fix
to
the All-Star
Sunday.
game.
Let's move to Sunday. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here. This was an absolute disgrace. And I have many different things. First of all, I looked on my TV guide. It said the draft, they were doing the draft before the game.
Wait, time out.
Wait a second. Hold up. Wait a minute.
What? Was a,
TV guide, what?
you know what I'm talking about? The
TV
guy
guy
channel.
said.
The guy
Yeah,
channel.
who was on the cover this week?
Alf.
7:30.
Is that why we talking about
7:30.
Nickelodeon at the beginning?
7:30 is the
Jay
draft.
Cortez was on the front.
8 o'clock's the game. The game didn't tip till 8:45.
Yeah, that was a disgrace.
When did we stop catering to the East Coast and the major markets?
I have a theory. I didn't watch the draft. When did the draft take place?
It was 7:30 and it drug on way too long.
I think that they drug out the tip between the draft and the tip to let people get their bets in.
No, they were warming up. The players were warming up. You could see them. They were behind Post Malone in the concert.
No. But I mean, it was to give the public a chance to bet on the game.
And
Well,
that's
they didn't have
fine.
all day to bet on it?
Didn't do the draft at 7.
No, but Chris, right? I
I was
agree.
gonna say
I know,
because they
I
don't have
agree.
the teams yet.
Right. They couldn't have a
Okay.
line on the game because they didn't have the team. So I think because the NBA isn't, they're in partnership
Right.
with all
I
these.
Say
get that.
that.
Then put the draft at 7. Move everything up a half
No,
hour.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
And I get it's in Utah, but again, like why is the NCAA championship tip off at 9:15?
It's
When do
stupid.
we stop catering to like the New York, Philadelphia, Boston, DC, like the major metro areas?
It sucks. They know we're going to stay up. That's what it is. They know we're
I
gonna stay up.
wasn't. I was.
Yeah,
So
you're in a minority on that though.
No,
Most
yeah.
you
people
stayed up
still-
for the game last night?
No, because it was I watched them maybe a quarter and a half and it was beat, so I turned it off. I put on Last of Us. But I will say, if it was a good game, I would have stayed up. I've stayed up last year. I stayed up.
I watched it. I wasn't even interested, and I watched it.
The effort in that game. Again, I watched the first 10 minutes of the game. Was disgraceful. And Mike Malone said it, the coach of Denver Nuggets, said it was the worst basketball game he's ever seen in his career. These guys, it was basically catch a pass, and if you want to get to the rim, you can just walk to the rim because nobody was getting your way. There wasn't even a thought of playing even faking playing defense.
Well, and also when you went to the rim, it wasn't even dope moves. It was like just literally just drive by somebody and do a layup or a basic dunk. It wasn't even like cool stuff.
And they tried to mic up Luka for at the end of the first quarter while he was playing, which I get it. You're trying different things, and I'm fine with that. And the one thing that he said, which is exactly why you're seeing this, they were like, "Oh, go for a stop there." He's like, "Oh no, nobody's going to get hurt tonight." Like that's the thing. And like if that's the case, like, and this is how I feel. This is my hot take about all All-Star games at this point. Just nix them all. Like I'm done with them. Like there's no reason to have them. Every game, with the exception of probably baseball, which has the best chance of being closest to the real thing, we're changing the rules of the game so that we can do X, Y, or Z. It's time to come up with something more creative, something different, something that people watch. Because what we saw last night was unwatchable. It's just not fun.
Yeah, and one thing I hate, you talk about the rule changes. I hate that they attach giving money to a charity based on who wins. Why are we only giving a certain amount to Giannis's team because they won, but we're not going to give that amount to LeBron's team when the NBA is a multi-billion-dollar company? That to me is shitty.
I gotta.
I hate that.
We're gonna bookmark the charity situation because I have something more to say about that shortly. But go.
So then the other thing, Seltzer, you might get to saying this, but it's just like we don't need all-star games anymore because we see all these guys all the time. It's not like the 80s, the 70s, and even the 90s where we couldn't sit here and watch Los Angeles Lakers every night. We couldn't watch a Dallas Mavericks every night. We wouldn't be able to see Luka. That was the whole point of the All-Star game. Let's bring the entire best players in the league together on a night where the whole nation can watch them because we don't get to. But now we get to. We don't need.
And look, here's the thing: we get absolutely for resumes still have All-Star teams. Here's your All-Star team. Here's who made the All-Star team. We're not having a game, but you made it. Congratulations. Back in the day, like in the 90s, All-Star MVP meant a little something. Like it wasn't a league MVP. Now it's like Jason Tatum won MVP last night because he wanted to win MVP.
And
Like
he had 55 points, and 45 of them were just going to the basket and not being even contested with his shot.
Right.
I think we're jumping the gun a little bit on like the whole All-Star game thing. Yeah, it was a bad year this year. There's better ideas out there, but like let's not forget, like, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? It was a classic game. So like it's not like it can all of a sudden like this game has been a mess for years at the Pro Bowl. It's not like that.
But it's a classic. Like, it's a classic last 5 minutes. Like I'm not staying up to watch it. Like I'm not getting there.
And it was only classic, I think, because wasn't that the first year of the Elam ending?
Yeah, that was.
I think that had something to do with it. Which, by the way, here's a hot take that I've had for a number of years, ever since the basketball tournament started using it. I love the Elam ending, and I would love for that to be the way the NBA ended their games.
I think eventually it'll get there, but I think you're talking 30 to 40 years down the road.
It is objectively better. It totally wipes out the stupid constant fouling and the last 2 minutes of a game being stretched out to 15 minutes. It just I don't see the downfall in changing it to that.
I'm trying to figure out, like, I was watching the other day, they had the 93 All-Star game on. And I watch them from time to time because it's just nostalgic and remember where you were when you were a kid watching it the first time and the guys that were playing and stuff. And the game was competitive though. Like they had the same situation. Like the first quarter or two was kind of like a little bit loosey goosey, kind of doing a little, but like it wasn't just like, oh, go ahead, MJ, just go by me and just do a layup or do a dunk or get your shot off. They still like got in your face at least. Like now it's quickly, even a couple of years ago, it wasn't as bad as it was last night. Like it's getting worse very fast. And that's the issue I have with it.
There's a big time difference between loosey goosey and what we saw last night.
Right.
That was
a joke.
It was a complete joke.
And here's another thing too. Like they had a big thing at the end of what was it, third quarter with Tatum and Jalen going at it. If you're not a Celtics fan, if you're an antithesis of a Celtic fan like we are, I don't care about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going one-on-one for 4 freaking possessions in a row in the middle of a game and having 8 other dudes just clear the court and watching them do that. That didn't do anything for me. Now their skill set was dope. I'll admit, like Tatum and like both their like handles and getting shots off in each other's grill like was cool, but like overall, I'm not like, oh, here they go, like this is it. Like I didn't care like that.
Yeah, and if it was like you said, if it was one possession here, one possession there, that's fine. But when you're just doing it continuously, it's not
4 straight possession. I thought you were saying like one time.
Right.
You get a 4 straight possession. There was a period in the fourth quarter where, and I hate to say this because we got an Embiid hater in the podcast, but when Embiid literally was just like at half court and was just like, all right, what are we doing? Like you could almost see him like thinking, what is this? Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? It's weird.
Where are we at on the draft? You guys like the draft, or you like the old school East-West and just leave it the way it is?
The draft was cool to spice things up for a year or two, but just like everything else with this All-Star game and All-Star weekend, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't move the needle enough to be like, oh, this is must see. I didn't care who got drafted.
So, what do you think? Because that's one of my ideas, so I'll just get to it right now for fixing it. If you went back to the East versus West format, kept the draft, but had the captains, like, so the captains are still going to be the same thing as far as like, we'll find out whenever, whoever the captains, the top 2 go-getters, whatever. They're the captains. The captains draft starters only the night of the draft. So in other words, everybody on the team is in the pool.
We don't vote, is what you're saying.
Nobody votes but the captains. And you got like old school, like LA Fitness status. Like you got caps on the wall. I need 5 of y'all. Who or 4 plus me as a captain? Who am I picking? And everybody from the 12th guy to the second guy are all available. And you watch that before the game starts.
It's fine. It's still not enough for me. I don't mind it. I just doesn't really.
I think mixing the teams up at this point, like not having a specific definitive boundary for like the teams or whatever, like I think that's contributing to the downfall of it. People need an inherent organic rooting interest.
Right.
And when you don't have that, just like the Big Three is actually a decent product if you watch it, but you can't get into it from a perspective of a true fan because you're not attached to cities. They're not attached to companies even. They're attached to just random like rec league, whatever the couple of names are. But like they're random team names, and like you don't really have an affiliation to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one downfall that they have. And I think it's the same now with the All-Star game. There's no clear, like, all right, you're a Sixer fan, you're going to root for the East, or you a Luka fan, you want to root for the West, like whatever. Like you don't have that now. Now it's just like everybody plays with whoever.
Right. I agree, and it's just difficult. Like you watch the draft, but by the time the game starts, you forget who's on whose team, and it's just kind of a mismatch of what's going on. I'm not a huge fan of the draft, although, Chris, you can call Allen and Embiid hater if you want. It was such justice that he was the first overall pick, and the guy wasn't even supposed to start the game. That was fantastic.
No, that even more so that Jokic was like the last pick.
I know, I loved it
himself.
I loved it.
And that was one of the things that I loved about the situation as far as a positive was, again, that's another time when Jokic gets exploited for not being a true dog like the other dudes in this league. He's not athletic. He's not fun to watch. If you want to have a pickup game, you want to have a not pickup game. I'm sorry. You want to have a regular like structured game in the NBA. Obviously, he fits and he can do his thing, puts up statistics and things like that. But if you're playing a fun pickup game with just skills and athleticism, he gets exploited big time.
Yeah,
He looks
I
so
saw
out of place.
Giannis had the big notebook. It must not have had the Raptor and the Vorp.
Right.
Was in there.
Yeah, the Vorp
Everybody got
All-Star
picked
game
higher.
was
Commentary ripped on Jokic at one point because he had a wide open, like they got it to him wide open cherry picking, and he laid it in. They were like, "Oh, nice fundamental layup."
well. I remember when they had the there was one play too where they threw a full court pass and he just like bobbled it and lost his balance and like the ball went out of bounds.
Look, Jokic is good, but it felt so good to see him be go number one. That was fantastic.
Adam, do you have a fix for the All-Star game? Because I have one. I thought Chris for some reason might have had the same thing, but it wasn't the same.
Well,
thing.
no, I didn't even get to my real fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So look,
ahead,
I think this is a good point. I think it's easy to sit here and bitch and complain about what's going on, but you need to provide a solution. And my solution is out there. It's never, ever, ever going to happen for marketing reasons.
Oh.
But let me tell you what would entertain me. Leave these All-Stars at home. Nix the game. It's done. Take a cap. So, for instance, in my example here, I'm going to take $5 million. And each team in the NBA has to send 4 players to the All-Star weekend that make $5 million or less. So if you're looking at the Sixers roster, they could send realistically Maxey, Shake, Paul Reed, Jaden Springer, something like that. So really you're looking at like late first round picks, second round picks, younger guys, or like aging veterans. That's what you're looking at. And have a 3-on-3 tournament throughout the All-Star game and give these younger stars a platform to show themselves and let the winning team make $15 million. So you're seeing these young guys, instead of a guy making $1 million playing for $3.5 million, you want to see guys play hard? Like those guys are going to play hard for me. But here's my catch.
Okay, because
it's going to be way too long. So play the first 2 rounds on Saturday, stream it on NBA app. Like nobody's watching that. And then Sunday, have the final 8 teams. The final, it doesn't have to be long. It's short. It's sweet. Again, I'm going to be into it, but most people won't because they're not going to see the big names. But nobody wanted to watch the crap that was on last night anyway. So who cares?
This is for the diehards though, because I do not want to know who the hell San Antonio is sending to this thing.
They won't get to the final 8.
Who like Denver is sending? I don't want to know who anybody's sending to this.
I want to watch some play. Why? So they're making no money for a reason. Because
but some of them are rookies. Some of them are rookies.
So, but they have the rookie sophomore game already.
Right.
You wouldn't love to see Jaden Springer out there doing his thing and showing you what he's got because
he wouldn't be making the team.
Huh?
He wouldn't be making the team. He doesn't play. So how would he be? How would he have a chance to make the team?
Why wouldn't he make the team?
He doesn't get any minutes to show he should be in the game.
Well, how many players do you think are on the Sixers that make less than $5 million?
Wait, so are you saying a cumulative amount of? Say that again. You're saying that
you can only play in the game if you make $5 million or less this year. That's your salary. You don't have to be an all-star.
Okay,
yeah, so I don't get the reward.
So the Clippers are sending Bones, Brandon Boston Jr., Jason Preston, and Nate Darling.
So some teams will have one guys.
I don't understand why would I have an interest in watching that?
Why would you have interest in watching what you saw last night?
You might as well just watch the basketball tournament in the summer then. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's better. There's actually guys that actually were good at one point.
Listen, all I want to do is see people compete, and I think the 3-on-3 concept is something different. Again, it wouldn't be popular. I would enjoy it. Most people wouldn't, but I can't imagine anybody enjoying what they saw last night.
What's the selfish take? I'll tell you what. There was a fan of the pod that used to say Adam's selfish, and that's a selfish take. Just because you want to watch it doesn't mean that the millions of people in the NBA universe want to watch that.
I know we're just having fun, but Detroit would only be able to send Rodney Magruder and Isaiah Livers. That's it.
There's no way.
There's no one else.
I'm gonna look it up. Hold on.
Well, that's the thing too. Like $5 million in the NBA is nothing.
I'm looking at it right now. They got Buddy Boeheim and Jared Roden on the.
All right. Well, maybe we up the thing a little bit. Jalen Duren is $4 million.
Oh, you're talking about? Oh, no, I was looking at the guaranteed column.
No, this year's salary.
Okay, so then you got Duren, Stewart, Magruder, and Livers.
All right, maybe up it to 7.
Dude, that would be a nightmare if they made it to the finals of that thing.
Can you imagine Shaq and Kenny and
maybe
Chuck
there's
having to
hidden talent
broadcast that?
there.
Dude, they do the who he play for every year. Chuck never
Yeah,
knows.
they can't do that.
Isaiah
Listen,
Livers.
I know they can't do it, but I'm saying it's still better than what we saw last night
I
For
have
who? For them?
for everybody.
Listen, my solution is also stuck in dreamland, but it's way better. It's way better. So listen, this is going to be a lot of wrestling on this pod. A little foreshadowing, okay? Little foreshadowing. Let me ask you guys, outside of the WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, the Survivor Series, the Big Four, SummerSlam, outside of those four, when we were kids, like in the 90s, what was your favorite pay-per-view?
The Rumble.
You're gonna say King of the Ring. You want a tournament.
You said outside of those, you said.
How do you not want you get 24 guys, the top 24 vote getters, the top 24 whatever, play in a one-on-one tournament the same way you kind of set up, Adam. You have 17 through 24 play the first night, right? The winners of those play the 9 through 16 guys, and then on Saturday you have the whole rest of it. So you have at that point it's a 16-man tournament, and you play one-on-one until a king of the court is crowned.
Because these guys aren't going to care. Like, they're not going to play hard.
But again, this is in dreamland, because look, Chris talked earlier about not caring about Tatum and Brown going at it, but I disagree. I think the most compelling parts of the game last night and in the most recent All-Star games is when you have either teammates going at it or when you have the back and forth, like Lillard and Donovan Mitchell were going at it, shooting the threes from three-quarter court. I think those are the most compelling parts of the All-Star game anymore.
So, Al, you were right in that we have a similar idea. Great minds think alike. But I'm going to build off of yours. So I thought about the livers in it, and they used to have that. It wasn't during the All-Star game, but I remember when I was a kid, and no one remembered it because it made me feel like I was dreaming or something. But I looked up, and it did happen. They had a one-on-one situation. I don't know if it was a tournament, but they had Doc play Kareem in a one-on-one on pay-per-view. And I remember I went over to my cousin's house when I was like 7, and I watched that. That was probably like 91, 92, something like that. And they were retired. They were like, I think they were both retired at that point, but for charity, whatever it was for. So I always thought like
it was called Clash of the Legends.
There you go. Now, was it only those two, or was it other people?
Wait a minute. They're old as shit. It was 1992. They look.
That's what I'm saying, because I watched it, and I was 7 or 8 when that was on. So I think it was just those two, though, right? Was it any other games?
I'm looking. Oh, I only have that. Wait, let me see. Which, by the way, do you remember who won?
No.
It says Jabbar routes Dr. J in Legends Clash.
Dude, that would be lit, though. Imagine that. So anyway, building off of that, that was a sub thing I wanted to add in there. But building off your idea, Al, and also combining the wrestling undertones to it. In WCW, what was the coolest pay-per-view growing up?
World War III.
Okay, that, and also
War Games.
Huh?
That's what I'm talking about. War Games.
Well, that was a different thing.
Yeah,
Fall Brawl was War Games. World War III was World War III.
Oh, I thought that was War Games.
No.
War Games is the answer.
So that for me, and also the Lethal Lottery on Starcade.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So for me, instead of 1-on-1, I would make it 2-on-2. You expand the All-Stars to 32 players. So you have 16 2-on-2 teams for the tournament. And instead of just coming like, yo, me and Joe Blow are going to play together, it's a lethal lottery. 32 cats show up. You got the ball spinning in the thing. All right, who comes out first? Joel Embiid. All right, who comes out next? Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They're on a team. Now they got to play the next guys. Who comes out next? Luka Doncic and James Harden. It's wild. All of a sudden, you got all kind of dream scenarios. It's like NBA Jam brought to life, right? And then games are to 24 by 2s and 3s. Winner gets $1 million. Winning duo.
$1 million.
I think that'd be dope.
Listen, idea is great, but the prize, you got to up the prize.
No,
Way
here's
down.
the-
no, I
no,
mean,
Listen,
yeah.
idea is fantastic. The idea is
Yeah,
fantastic.
here's the prize. The winners get put on whatever NBA team has the best record at the time, and the losers get put on whatever NBA team has the worst. It's like relegation.
A buyout tournament. The
The
other
idea
idea
is
too,
fantastic.
the other idea too I was having was and you mentioned with the charity situation, I was just thinking maybe, and there's a reason for it, maybe if they had every quarter, if you held it the other team to under 30 or 35 in that quarter, $250,000 goes to that team's charity. Now, if they both do it the same quarter, that's $500,000 that goes to two separate charities. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you do it each quarter, you give $1 million to the team's charity. The reason why I think that would work is because imagine if that was the stakes and you saw what happened last night. They would all get killed on social media and everything else for not even giving an attempt to meet that quota for those charities.
I agree. I think they should be getting killed anyway. It's
Oh, yeah, well, they are, for the
unbelievable
most part,
That's what's on the line.
So if you have a charity invested and money towards that and you still aren't giving effort, then that's a serious issue.
And it should go to the players' charities, like the charity of their choice. So
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So
So those are my two ideas to make it better. But the 16 team tournament, two player tournament to me would be fired.
So
And you would add, what was it? What's the amount now? 28 guys?
no, it's still 24.
24.
But then they have,
So
they have injury replacements and whatnot.
So you add a couple more spots to eliminate the whole conversation of people that got, passed over or whatever. If you're the 33rd guy, you probably wouldn't or shouldn't be an all-star anyway. But at that point, I think it would definitely minimize the amount of snub conversation and things that going on, and you get a better product. My thing is now, do you make that the focal point of the weekend, or do you make that the Saturday night event?
Well, I think you have to, if you're going to have a full tournament, you probably just split it to 2 days.
2 nights, yeah.
And that would be fine too. I'd rather see that than, what we saw last night. And I think NBA Jam in real life basically is what will come out to be. I think that'd be awesome.
Chris, also at the Clash of the Legends, we had Rick Barry, 47-year-old Rick Barry played Connie Hawkins. We had George Gervin playing Tiny Archibald. And then the winners of those two played each other, which was George Gervin playing Rick Barry, and George Gervin beat Rick Barry 29-26.
See?
Classic.
And damn, how long was the game?
I'm not
ones or twos.
I'm just skimming this, but the Kareem and Dr. J one is so much more funny. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar started off to an 11-0 lead and never looked back.
You gotta watch the clips on YouTube. It's awesome. It looks like an old Nintendo game, but it really happened.
A 7-inch height and 57-pound advantage over Irving.
And he was like 45.
Yeah, dude, Kareem could play forever though.
Oh my god.
So look, I'll say this. I think, Chris, your ideas were the best of all of us. However, I don't know if you guys saw any XFL this weekend.
I actually saw a little bit of the DC Commanders and whoever else they.
Did you see the onside kick rule?
Yeah,
25-yard line thing.
Al, as a former ref in rec sports, you should know that I came up with those rules 10 years ago. Onside kicks were like extra points from the 15-yard line, and you can get the ball back if you converted it.
Yeah,
remember that, guest?
Yep.
This 3-on-3 tournament may have some legs in the future. We have some more open minds.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to shout out rec sports.
Yeah, that league. You should have kept that going.
Yeah, I was more concerned with going down to Sea Isle and partying than I was running the sports league.
Some of the worst times of my life were reffing your little league there.
It was good pay.
I almost just dropped my first F-bomb of the podcast. These nerds yelling at me, telling me I'm fixing games. Like, I don't care who wins. I don't even know who the hell you are.
That'll be it for segment 1 tonight. Anybody else have anything before we shut it down?
I was going to say one thing we didn't really get to talk about was how it was a concert and a basketball game broke out. I mentioned that last night to you guys, but also the Inside the NBA broadcast on TBS was awesome.
Unmatched. It's
I'll watch pretty much anything Shaq, Kenny, and Chuck talk about, and Ernie. Like they could be talking like ripping like a Lifetime movie, and I would still watch. I'd watch it. Like
I'm
it's
not a
just,
Shaq guy. Shaq pisses me off.
No, he found his way. He still can't be the butt of the joke. It gets on him too much. But if you remember him when he first started, he was bad. Like, he was rough. He didn't fit in at all. Guess I agree. And even their B team is great. Like Adam Lefko is good. Jamal Crawford stepped right in and he's good. Reggie, he gets on me time to time, but I want Kenny and Reggie to just commentate everything. I just want them to commentate like when I eat dinner, when I drive to work, everything.
I like Reggie actually a lot. But yeah, those guys, they just get it. And it's funny how like when they just riff off each other, because I remember last night Shaq said something about, or no, Chuck said something about like all these guys in such great shape. And then Shaq was like, "You said to me when I had my shirt off the last year." He's like, "Yeah, I said to everybody but you." But matter of fact, I don't like any grown man without his shirt on walking around behind me. So I don't. They're just.
And NBA on TNT is it's the quintessential post game show. Even though, dude, they don't watch any basketball outside of what they air. Like,
and they're starting to like, especially with Shaq, they're starting to just embrace like he doesn't know what he's talking about. So let's just like make fun of him for it because he clearly doesn't watch basketball unless it's like 4 teams.
Yeah. Right. Whoever's on the night they're on TNT.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of basketball, we're going to jump back into it in segment 2. We did in the NFL season a little a revision, let's say, midway through the year where we were to go back and change our predictions. We're going to now do that with the NBA and go into where we're at now and what we see in the playoff future. So we'll be right back with segment 2. Welcome back to segment 2, where, as I mentioned, we are going to do some revisions to our predictions. We're going to look at the NBA standings as they are now and get in depth in regards to what we see happening in the future. And I think to make it a little simpler, let's start in the East, because the East, I think, has a little bit more concrete teams. The West is a little bit jumbled. But where I want to start is we have 5 teams that are currently not in the playoffs at all. We have Chicago, Indiana, Orlando, Charlotte, and Detroit. And the first question is, do you see any of these teams moving into the play-in situation or the playoffs altogether?
Well, Chicago made a big move, or about to make a big move today. Did you see that tonight?
I saw it, and then I forget. Oh, Beverly
going to the Bulls, my boy.
Yeah, that is your boy.
That ain't going to be enough though to get him anywhere. But Al, you want to go? You want to go first?
So of the 5 teams, we have Detroit, Charlotte, Orlando, Indiana, and Chicago are the 5 that are out. I think Chicago is mired in like dysfunction. I don't like Chicago.
What's their deal? Like, why can't they win games?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, Ball's been injured. I don't know that that's really. I mean, you still have DeRozan and Levine. That should be enough to
Vucevic
be a top 10. Yeah, and Vucevic. That should be enough to be a top 10 team in the East. Like, what's wrong there?
I don't know if it's Donovan is not a good coach.
I never liked him.
Like for NBA level at least, or if it's just Levine. I mean, who's their best player, DeRozan or Levine?
DeRozan.
That's who I would think, but
well, the team
won before.
Has anybody seen or heard anything from Lonzo Ball? I mean, he's going to now apparently be out for the year. I mean, is he ever going to play again?
No idea.
I don't know. I saw the report the other day that he is probably all but certain to be declared out for the season.
Yeah, I saw that too. $20 million this year, $20 million next year, $21 million the year after that for a guy who apparently he's been out since midway through the year last year with this knee injury, and they can't figure it out.
Is his knee or his back?
It's his knee. He had the meniscus, and then they did the surgery, and now apparently like he couldn't even walk this year. So,
well, you're a new surgeon,
I guess. I'm sure LeVar's not thrilled.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he's got another meal ticket that's doing pretty well at least. So
yeah, but although he's even further down the list than Lonzo's team right now.
But I will say, like we give him a bad rap. Not we meaning like the public. I mean, the guy actually has been like for all accounts a really good father. He's raised 3 kids into be professional athletes. and they're all good kids. There's none of them that are troublemakers, nothing like that.
He knew
So
what he was
shout out to
doing.
him,
All an act.
especially being a young black father at the time. Like, hey, he's
It was
he's
all
got
an
a big
act.
mouth, but
Listen, he did what he wanted to do. He got his kids' names out there. Like he had to play the role of clown a little bit because of it. But at the end of the day, like you just said, like he did what was right by his family. I got no issues with it.
Yeah,
Everybody
those two
that,
kids
like,
are so soft spoken too.
yeah,
It's just crazy.
it was like the boom of the reality TV era too. Still, like he knew what he was doing.
yeah,
But the one team I have out that I think will sneak in is Indiana. I think Indiana trades places with Washington as far as Washington being out and Indiana being in.
why?
Because finally, Indiana's getting back to health a little bit with Halliburton and Turner. They had some injury trouble there,
Okay.
and I think they have enough talent to get a play-in spot at worst.
I was
So
gonna say because they've
Indiana's
been
my
plummeting
team.
since the start of the year. They were, I mean, for a while in the playoff situation, and then they've just been plummeting down to 12 where they're at right now.
Yeah, they were as high as 3 or 4,
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah,
But we knew that was all fool's
right.
gold. We knew
That,
that wasn't going to
that
last.
was like the Jazz being in first place in the West for
Right.
however many weeks.
I'm not buying the Pacers at this point.
Yeah, no, me neither.
As mediocre as Washington is, and I think if there's one team of those 4 of the playing teams that'll fall out, it's them. They still have Beal, and Porzingis has actually been really good this year. I don't see anybody changing spots. Deep down that I wish the Magic were a little bit closer. They
You're gonna
dug
say
themselves
that.
the hole going 6-20 or 5-20 to start the year, but they're better than right now. I'd say they're better than Atlanta. They're better than Washington. They're better than Toronto. They're just too far
You
behind.
think they're better than Atlanta?
Yeah, you love Atlanta, dude. They're so average.
Well, that's more than what the Magic are right now.
The Magic are, again, since they were 5-20 or 6-20, they're 19-15. Like Atlanta's 29-30 this year. Like to say that
Orlando would beat Atlanta in a 7-game series.
yeah, I do.
Oof,
I don't know
yikes.
about that.
We're gonna have some Orlando,
Maybe not a 7-game series.
or we're gonna have some Atlanta guys on the pod in a couple of months, and Adam's gonna have to be apologizing to them like he was apologizing to Chris Styles and
Listen,
for Sweat.
Atlanta's got. Listen, to be fair about the Sweat comment, Alan just picked Josh Sweat to get a sack. But
Hey yo, and I'll tell you something else. I'd appreciate homie's tweet about the I think Al, did you have the con of the 3 in the and when you said about the Juju thing, and he was like hashtag Super Bowl champion clown or whatever.
yeah,
Bro, come on, man. It's too early for that.
All right, so we're all in agreement there that Al has Indiana jumping in, and Chris and I we're leaving it as is.
Well, I think Toronto might be able to jump in, but
They
are in.
They are in. They're 10.
Oh well, I'm sorry, in the top 8. I'm saying.
Oh no, I'm not there. I'm just saying.
You're just saying to play
Indiana, Orlando, Charlotte, Detroit, all out.
No. You're right. Then I'm yeah.
Okay.
Didn't Washington kind of sell though with trading Hachimura?
Yeah, but I think that was more to like clear up space. They kind of had a logjam there, and they've been playing Avdia a little more. Who I actually like. He's actually, believe it or not, one of the better defensive players in the league. So I think that was more of just like clearing out space.
I think it actually would have been better since they traded him. I think. Actually.
Yeah, and like if they were selling, they would have traded Kuzma because Kuzma is a free agent at the end of the year. I just think that was more clearing out, like I said, clearing out Rui's space because they had a little bit of a logjam there at the 3.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Let's move into the teams that are in the play-in currently. Miami, Atlanta, Washington, Toronto. Do you see any of those teams jumping into the top 6? I'll throw it to Chris first.
Yeah, Miami maybe, just because they do it every year. They always make a late run. I could see that maybe, and equally the Nets are going to plummet. I think the Nets are going to be in that play-in situation by the time it's all said and done. They're not going to be a 5 seed with that roster.
I agree with you. I think that Brooklyn will continue to plummet. People were ranting and raving that this team wasn't going to be that bad since they traded Durant. They got all these pieces with Bridges and Finney-Smith. They don't have any offensive playmakers. They don't have enough offense by any means. They have a lot of good wing defenders, but they have a lot of guys that are like the same player at this point with Finney-Smith, Bridges, O'Neal,
Well, you know who they remind me of? They remind me of Toronto in the sense that they have a lot of the same dudes. Like they're the long wings that can like do a lot of things decent, but nothing great.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think Toronto has a little higher echelon of talent. And I think that the other difference is like Toronto to me has a hierarchy where like they don't have a lot of depth. Like Siakam's the guy, right? Siakam's the best player on that team. Scotty Barnes is next. And then as you go to their bench, it gets weaker. For me, like Brooklyn has like 7 or 8 of the same guy. And I just don't think from a chemistry standpoint, that's good for your basketball team because
And who's the guy you're putting on your marquee for the Nets organization right now?
I mean,
Bridges?
it's
Former rookie of the year, Ben Simmons. Now,
oh, sorry. I mean,
Chris, you made a good point. I agree with you that they're very similar to Toronto as far as like the type of player, but where they're not like Toronto is the mentality of the team. Brooklyn's the land of misfit toys all of a sudden. I mean that's going to be really hard for them to try and dial things up with what 30 games left in the season. Figure out, like Adam just said, the chemistry on the team. Who's going to be the guy? What? We're down 8. Like, what are we doing here in the fourth quarter? Do we know? Do we understand each other's skill sets? That
Well,
kind of thing. I think it's just too late in the game. They're going to plummet.
yeah, and also the difference too is Toronto actually has a respected and legit head coach. Jacques Vaughn has been doing okay with what he's got, and I like Jacques Vaughn, but he's not Nick Nurse. And net on top of that, you're going to throw an interim coach in a situation where he doesn't have a main go-to guy to rely upon, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean that's recipe for disaster. I think.
Toronto's homegrown. They're all homegrown. They've won it.
Yeah.
as a Sixers fan, that's the team we want to see in the first round.
Toronto
Who?
or Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Yeah,
They're not gonna, I don't know if they're going to
everybody
make
wants
it.
to see Brooklyn.
I mean, they're going to be in the play, and I don't know. I mean, they should have enough. They're still better than Washington, I would think.
Yeah, but
That versus Atlanta would be interesting.
for us to see them though, we would have to jump up to 1 or 2. Am I correct?
Unless they hang on to 6.
I
Like
was going to
unless
say,
they
assuming they fall into the play-in.
correct.
Okay. I have them falling to 9, and I have the Heat moving up to 5.
So you still okay, so then let's go.
Damn, the 5?
Yeah, because I have them over the Knicks.
I
I have
think the Knicks are
Miami
better
at
than
5 and the Knicks at 6. And then I have Atlanta, Toronto, Brooklyn, Indiana, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I have full faith that in a series the Sixers would beat the Knicks, but I don't want to see the Knicks. Like
No,
they're tough.
I agree. I think the Knicks get the 5 and Miami would get the 6.
I'm fine
But I
with that.
think that Miami and Atlanta both have potential to get hot in the second half of the year like they do historically.
Let me ask you this. What has Atlanta done to warrant such praise in your eyes? Because realistically, they made the Eastern Conference Finals. They beat a crappy Knicks team and a Sixers team that imploded on itself. And ever since then, they've been average as hell. Like they weren't good last year.
No, but they get hot in the second half of seasons because whatever reason, I don't know if it's from McMillan or from Trey or whatever. The chemistry takes a while to gel for them. I don't know, but am I afraid of them? No, but at the same time, I respect that they're better than what is this? 1, 2, 4 of these mediocre teams we're talking about.
You in on Trey Young as like still a superstar?
I was just going to ask that question.
I think he is. That's a good question because he went into the Garden a couple years ago and the toughest place to play in the league in the playoffs, and he did his thing. I gotta respect that. Came in here, did his thing, but last year he was terrible. He was awful last year. It was embarrassing how bad he was in the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that.
To me, it reminds me of like if Trey Young's your best player, then you're not a very good team. However, I don't know if Trey Young knows how to be anything but the best player on a team. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think if he's your second or third guy, he fits.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that actually. I think that that's a valid point.
So I think he's a weird fit.
He can't be your best player in today's NBA anymore. He's
right,
not
I agree, but like I don't think like
enough.
can you imagine like he's one of the worst defensive players in the league, and then on offense, if he's not your best player or he doesn't have the ball in his hands, like how good? What's he going to do for you?
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I mean, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've watched Atlanta Hawks basketball at all this year. How has the chemistry been with him and Murray?
They're still
How's that
getting
affected him?
numbers.
All his shooting numbers are down. he's averaging a career high in assists, but when I think of Trae Young, I think of a scorer. I don't necessarily think of a passer.
I mean, he can
I think he's an underrated point guard. I think he can play the one and distribute, but like Seltzer said, I think that I don't know. The more I think about what you said, I agree with that. I don't know if he can be a second or third fiddle on a team. That's a weird, like, I don't know.
And look,
I don't see that. It's like Iverson back in the day. Iverson couldn't do that either.
right. Oh, that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
And Al, you said this a couple of weeks ago in regards to DeJounte Murray, not about him, but just in general. Like, you think in the NBA, like, if guys getting the opportunity, they can go get buckets. And DeJounte Murray's a really good player. But last year on San Antonio, he was in a position where they were like, dude, go do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And I think his numbers got inflated a little bit. He's a nice player, but I don't know if he was worth 3 or 4 first-round picks, whatever they traded for him. Like, I don't know if he's that much of a difference maker. I think his numbers were a little inflated last year because he was on that San Antonio team.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I think it was the highest usage percentage of his career, obviously.
Right.
So I mean, you're seeing those numbers come back down. No, I totally agree, and it's funny because I think everyone knew that. Like everyone knew when Atlanta got him, they were like, he's not going to be the guy that you saw in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think too, Seltzer, when you talk about Embiid being like easily someone to defend or game plan against or whatever in a playoff round, that's Trae Young.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trae Young is very guardable and very like easy to game plan against in a playoff series.
Yep.
Especially if you get the right guys for it.
Right.
Like Miami last year had the right guys and they tore him apart.
Yep. And when the Sixers put Ben Simmons on him, like when we played him, like Ben did a really good job. On the first couple of games, we had Danny Green on him and he was torching us.
Well, that was the coaching situation that also cost us. I don't even want to talk about that series. I still lose sleep over that series.
Let's go to the top of the East. Obviously we've talked so much about our Sixers. Who scares you? I mean, obviously we have Boston and Milwaukee. Do we have any fear of Cleveland? I mean, we touched on New York a little bit. Do you have any fear of Cleveland or New York in a series from a Sixers standpoint?
No.
Yeah, I know, Chris. You said you don't, right?
No.
I don't either.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly don't either.
I ain't been high on Cleveland. I think Cleveland's a fun season team. I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs.
I like Cleveland, but I thought they would match up better with the Sixers because of the size. But I'm not sure Mobley is ready for playoff basketball from an offensive standpoint. I do think, we saw in the second half of the game what I said I was concerned about with Garland and Mitchell kind of got whatever shots they wanted. But I don't think they have enough offensively. And not picking up another guy at the trade deadline, I think was a big miss for them.
Speaking of that, real quick, it's a little bit off topic, but I was thinking today, what do you think about adding a guy like Will Barton to the Sixers? I've been a big Will Barton guy for a while.
I know you are, but he's not the guy he was 3 years ago.
But do you think that's from the fit where he's at right now, or do you think it's because he's just fallen off?
I think he's fallen off. And I know statistically, again, we can only talk so much about, the analytics and defensively, we've talked about how much those analytics actually mean, but analytically, he's one of the worst defensive players in the entire league. And I think from an offensive standpoint, he's kind of, even last year, he wasn't as good in Denver, which is why they got rid of him. So again, would I take him over? Like realistically, if they brought him in, they'd probably cut Dedmon. I'd probably rather have Barton than Dedmon, but I'm not dying to get a Will Barton. I think he'd be very Daniel House, believe it or not, at this point in his career.
Well, why don't they cut his House? What's House's contract?
2-year deal, so they still got to pay him next year.
Will Barton seems to me like he's 38 years old, but he's probably like what 33.
He's 32.
Yeah, he's younger than you would think.
But he could. Like I said, I've been a big. I like his game. Offensively, at least. I know defensively he can have struggles, but when he's hot, he's a really good piece off of a bench, a good team's bench.
Well, when does he
even
come
play
in?
for Washington?
When does he come in? Like, what would he do for? I don't want to really get started on Will Barton here, guys.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to make it a thing about. I was just wondering because I saw a list of like best guys that are available that still might be buyout candidates, and he was on there, and I was just
So let's go to your Eastern Conference Finals picks, and then we'll jump over to the West. So let's go to Al first. Who you got in the Eastern Conference Finals?
I think before the season, I was leaning towards Milwaukee over Philly, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Boston is very clearly the favorites to win an NBA title this year, and I have them over. Excuse me, I have Boston over Milwaukee at this point.
All right, Chris, you said something last week, so you can't go back on it, dude.
No, what did I say?
Let's hear your prediction.
Yeah, we know what you
Well,
said.
in the beginning of the season, I had said that the Sixers were my East pick. So I got to still stay with that because they're still in the thick of it. So I'll just stay with it because it's what I picked originally. But a Sixers Celtics finals in the East would be really fun. And that would mean that probably either one of those teams went through a war to get Milwaukee out, and whoever that team is would probably be in worse shape for that final series. But I just got a weird feeling this year that the Sixers are going to, despite the ups and downs of this regular season, I just got a feeling that they're going to get over this hump finally this year and get to the finals.
All right, so you have the Sixers over the Celtics, and
I didn't say I had them over. I'm saying that's the two I would have in that series. I don't know who. It depends on who Milwaukee plays. If Milwaukee plays Boston and Boston beats Milwaukee, I think the Sixers can
well,
win.
you got to give us an Eastern Conference Finals pick. Who the Sixers playing?
All right, so if you had a gun to my head, I would pick the Celtics.
Okay,
because they had the best player in the series, would be Jason Tatum, who's the top 4 player in the league.
so I'm saying you're taking Boston over Philly
For the East, yeah.
Okay.
Chris, I only hesitate to put Philly in there because I feel like it's too much of a want, like a heart. It's not, you know what I mean? Like,
but they are the 3 seed they're the 5th best team in the league.
And listen, this is a different James Harden. Like let's be honest. Like he obviously was hurt last year. Like
Right.
It's a different James. It's a different team. I agree. They could definitely make it to the Eastern Conference Final. I don't know if they can make it beyond that.
Crazy stat I saw on Twitter. I wanted to bring this up because we talked about it, I think, about comebacks. How many double-digit second half leads have the Sixers blown this year?
I think I saw the stat. Isn't it like 2 or 3?
You're right. It's only 2. They've only blown 2 second and 10 point, which seems like they blow them like, again, they only lost 19 games, but it feels like they've blown a lot more than that.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned.
Right. So I'm going to go. I think we're going to learn a lot about the Sixers in March. Their March schedule is absurdly difficult. I think they play 17 games in 31 days, 12 of which are on the road against a lot of playoff teams. Oh, I've bashed Joel Embiid on this podcast many times about how he hasn't had his playoff moment. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh,
I think the one thing that concerns me is that Milwaukee's only a half game behind Boston. I do not think the Sixers team can beat Boston. I think Boston is far and away the best team in the NBA. Boston has 4 guards that could start on almost every other team in the league with Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench. Like those guys are legit starters in the NBA. If the Sixers see the Bucks, I think they can win that series.
I agree.
I think they can beat Milwaukee. I'm not impressed. The Middleton's back, but he's only playing like 17 minutes a night. And they still haven't put him in the starting lineup, which tells me something's still not right there. I don't know if Milwaukee has enough offensive firepower. Jay Crowder doesn't scare me. Obviously, they have Giannis, but
so you would at this point you would want the stats the standings to stay where they're at.
correct. I would like
Milwaukee
to see
2. Okay.
Milwaukee.
So you think with Milwaukee as a 2, meaning the Sixers would have the disadvantage of home court, you still think that Milwaukee is subject to getting beat in that series?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't see the Sixers with the Sixers schedule. I don't see them passing Milwaukee or Boston in the standings. So I'm going to stick with. I'm assuming that the Sixers would be on the road in that series. So I'm going to go Boston over Philly in the East.
They've been a decent road team this year, the Sixers. So I mean,
yeah, and you only got to steal one. I mean, when these teams they're all so evenly matched, you can go on the road and like I don't expect the Sixers to hold serve on their home court either. So like they might have to win 2 road games.
And we've won in Milwaukee recently.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last couple of years, we've won a game in Milwaukee, so that's very possible.
All right, let's jump ship to the West. The West is a cluster.
Yeah.
Let's go to the bottom. Let's keep it the same way that we just did. Rockets, Spurs, Lakers, Blazers, Jazz. You see any of these teams jumping into the play-in?
Just looking over it again.
I'll go
Go
first.
ahead, go ahead.
Is there any way that LeBron is going to let the Lakers miss the play-in over the Oklahoma City Thunder?
That's who I have as my 10 is the Lakers.
I mean, he just said that this next stretch of whatever 20 games is going to be the most, which I don't buy, but he said it's the most important of his career.
Oklahoma City's pretty good though. Like they're
Yeah,
not.
but now they're going to be playing games that matter. Let's see what happens.
You're
They're a young
absolutely.
team, young coach.
Yep.
You know,
And the Lakers have made enough moves to make themselves a better team. And Al mentioned it last week. Getting rid of Russell Westbrook may have been, the most important move that they made.
why can't Bradley Beal and Dame Lillard win more games?
Well,
They're so good, and their teams do the same thing every year.
Then the-
Portland is 12 seed right now. They're a half game out. Do
then
they?
how good are they? Like how good are they?
Well, that's my point. Is like, why can't what are they not doing? I guess I know they're not great defensive players in their own right, but there's, I
It's
mean,
like
like
Iverson.
skill wise, like they're right up there with anybody.
It's like Iverson. Iverson couldn't get it done either.
Yeah, but at least Iverson had. I mean, he wasn't like regularly 9, 10, 11 seed. Like he would get in like a 6 spot, 7 spot, 4 spot. Like these guys don't even sniff close to. I mean, Portland had that 1 year a couple years ago where they were in the finals, I believe, right, or semifinals.
Yeah, they got in the Western. They
Yeah,
snuck
they
in
got-
the Western Conference Finals 1 year.
But for the most part, it's like the same story every year with those guys, and I'm like, I don't, and they don't have like Portland especially. Portland's team is. I don't hate Portland's team at all. Their roster's not bad.
It's not bad. It's just
Grant, Simons, like they're not a bad rot. Nurkic.
No defense.
That might be what the reason is.
But
That might be
Dame,
it.
Lillard, Anthony Simons backcourt plays no defense.
Right.
Yeah, they're too small.
And I think John Wall kind of hamstrung Bradley Beal for a while there, right?
Well,
Maybe.
what being out?
He wasn't very good. He was hurt a lot, and the team wasn't really built at that time. And Bradley Beal wasn't ready at that time to be the man.
Yeah, well, when Wall and Beal were healthy, I'm talking, 2014, 2015. They were a good team. They were like a 4 or 5 seed, and they were competitive. At least they weren't going to get to an Eastern Conference final, but they were a good squad when they had those two guys healthy.
And I love like Dame's one of my favorite guys. Would you rather have Dame right now or James Harden?
I love Dame. He's probably my favorite player in the league next to
That's what I'm saying. He's top 3 at worst for me. So like, I'd rather have Dame than Harden.
Again, it depends on this. Not that James Harden is like a great defensive player, but like, do you think the Sixers could win with a Lillard Maxey backcourt? Like, that's so small.
Yeah, it's vicious though offensively.
Wait, guess, did you see the video of LeBron dapping everybody up in the locker room?
Yeah.
How good was it when he called Josh slime? What up?
Yeah, that was actually hilarious.
That was such an OG moment. Like the
So
OG
OG.
coming in, like the unk coming in, like, yeah, what up, y'all?
All right, let's move on. So do we all agree that we have the Lakers jumping the Thunder?
I do. I have them at 10.
Somebody show up in the Thunder. I don't think they can stick with that.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at like Utah. I think Utah's going to continue to drop. Like, they're not trying to win.
And Utah's fun. They're a fun team to watch, believe it or not. I never thought I'd say that, but I like their squad, but I don't think they're.
Yeah, and they're tough at home. I mean, it's always been a good home court. But
Yes, especially when they're really good. It's a tough place to play.
I think LeBron's got to put the team on his back for the last however long this goes.
Yeah.
Playing teams. I got New Orleans, I got Minnesota, I got Golden State, and we have the Thunder, which we're going to actually now say is the Lakers. Any chance that any of those teams move into the top 6?
I didn't have any.
Uh,
Like New Orleans could, I think, if Zion gets back on the court. I have no idea what's going on with him though.
Well, he just had a setback, so he's out a couple more weeks now.
yeah.
Is he going to play again this year?
I don't know, man. Signs point to no. If New Orleans is like 7, 8, 9 seed, like what's the point? Why bring him back? Just shelve him.
How can he be out for when was that game? Because he heard it against the Sixers.
Yeah.
That was in
That was
like
a while ago.
beginning of
December?
January.
Yeah.
He's been out 6 weeks already. I mean,
The dude just has a body that's not built to last in the NBA with the way he plays and with most likely with the way he treats his body.
He just doesn't heal
There's
properly.
some guys in the league that are great players that just like Embiid's one, Anthony Davis is one,
Yeah.
Zion's one. Like they just can't get out of their own way when it comes to health. It sucks.
Yep.
Where are we at on Golden State?
They're gonna be a playing team.
What's Steph's deal?
He's out for like another like month and a half, right?
Yeah, reevaluate after the All-Star break. It's been 3 weeks already, so I think it was what 4 to 6 to start.
Yeah.
So maybe another week or two.
I think he's starting to break down a little bit.
Yeah, it's just starting to feel like this isn't their year.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
And
Chuck said to Draymond the other night, "Y'all cooked."
Yeah.
He said that last
saw
year.
that.
No, I know, but this year y'all cooked.
yeah, I saw that. I'm pretty comfortable with the top 6.
So am I. I have them moved around a little bit, but I'm happy with the 6.
Right. So let's go. Give me your in this top 6. Give me your contenders. Who you could see getting to a finals, let's say.
I think all of them except for Sacramento.
Chris?
And actually, and probably Denver. I don't think Denver can get to the finals.
Ooh, I love that.
I don't think they can.
I actually, again, I don't know if you want me to say it or not yet. If you want to wait till we get to that part, but I think that it takes all I have to not pick Denver as to win the West. And I don't like as much as I hate Jokic, I like the Nuggets. But I picked the Clippers preseason. I'll stick with the Clippers. I actually really like the Westbrook fit with the Clippers. I do. I think that's actually a decent fit for him. And they're obviously a playoff. They're waiting for the playoffs already. Those guys don't care about these games. They just want to get into the tournament and ball at that point. So I'm going to still stick with the Clippers, but
I actually think you're right. I think the Clippers are the team to beat, but like my concern with them is the same thing I said about the Suns. Like, you trust Kawhi and Paul George to stay healthy over a 6-week span where they're playing every other night? Like, do they have that in them? Because Kawhi hasn't done it.
No, but that you could also argue the opposite end of that, which would be that they're doing it on like they're taking their time and doing this now to get it out the way so that they can play in the playoffs.
Right.
And obviously that's a fair trade-off if they ended up going deep or winning the championship. But it's just do I like the Clippers as a team? Like in terms of like the guys, I don't like Kawhi. Paul George is good, but he never seems to be in the right place at the right time. But I just like the way that they're made up. I like their coaching. Their roster now is last couple of days has gotten a little bit better, a little bit deeper. So I still think they can make it. And it's funny, they're 28 and 23, and they're a 4 seed.
30, no, they're 33 and 28.
Or 33 and 28, I'm sorry. So I know it was like 5 games above 500, and they're the 4 seed, which I feel like is low, isn't it? Shouldn't it be historically like a 6?
Yeah, the West is completely jumbled. I mean, the 4 seed Cleveland's 15 over 500 in the East. Yeah. And they're the 4 seed.
So it's taken all I had to not pick the Nuggets. I would not be shocked by that. I don't think Dallas is going to get as deep as people think they may because of Kyrie. And I don't think Phoenix is actually deep enough. I think Phoenix would have the same issues that they ran into with Brooklyn.
I agree. They have no bench.
All these teams have warts, and that's what's really, really tough. I don't love any of these teams. The one team we haven't mentioned is Memphis, who I'm not in love with either. Like, they talk a lot for a team that really hasn't done much. I think I'm leaning Denver as well. I would probably say Denver over Phoenix at this point would be my pick. But God, I don't love any of these teams out west, and I think whoever comes out of the West is getting rolled by Boston.
I get that it's a different player and a different team build and everything else. Well, I can't sit here and say that the Sixers are not going to win a championship with Joel Embiid as the best player because you can't win with a center as your best player,
I
and then
know.
say that Denver can do it with Jokic.
I know.
I don't think in the playoffs Denver's gonna. I don't think that's for me. That's the difference. I don't think in the playoffs Jokic is gonna be their best player. I think it's Jamal Murray's gonna be their best player in the playoffs.
Right,
It's
and they're
four,
not.
and
They're built differently than the Sixers.
I know, I know that. That's why I said I can't. But I still, I'm not. I'm going to stick to my guns here and just say that they can't do it.
I respect that. Like I hate the fact that I'm taking Denver, and I really because I agree with what I've preached it all year that you can't win with your best player as the center, and I'm picking it. But I just see just like warts everywhere else, and I mean, are all these teams lining up to try and draw Sacramento in the first round?
Yeah, pretty
well,
much.
Sacramento's where they're at for a reason too, though. Like that's not disrespecting too much. Like I mean, they're
Yeah, but
it is what it is. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to go anywhere, but at the same time, like they still are the 3 seed, so they could still beat somebody.
don't
They're the obvious easy out though.
yeah, but don't they feel like the poor man's Cleveland in the East?
They feel like the Jaguars of the NBA.
That was your squad.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, no, I'm saying like young, like upstart, like they're not ready. They're not ready.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking.
No, I agree. But I'm not sitting here. I don't think that they're going to just lay down for somebody. I think that they could be a tough out or win around, but that's the max.
Yeah, but I mean, who would you rather see, the Kings or the Mavs or the Suns? I mean, you're gonna have to see one.
Well,
of
that's a good right.
Like you look at it like this, like Dallas, it's Kyrie and Luka. Phoenix, it's Booker and KD. Clippers is Kawhi, Paul George.
Right.
Denver's Jokic and Murray. Grizzlies is Ja and Bane or whoever else you want to say. Kings is Fox and Sabonis, which is still nice, but it's not what those other teams are.
No, it's not. It's a pretty big gap too, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I took the Clippers. I took the Clippers over the Suns.
Okay. So you have Clippers and Boston.
Celtics. I got the Celtics beating the Clippers.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I said Denver over Phoenix. God. I'm not taking Jokic.
I technically said
Chris, you go because I don't know what I'm
I was gonna say I technically in October said Sixers Clippers. I know I just said if I had to make a decision on the fly between the Celtics and the Sixers, obviously Boston's a better team. So that's why right now, if we're talking about a segment where we're adjusting picks, I guess my adjustment would be I would put the Celtics over the Sixers. I hope I mean, I never wanted to be more wrong in my life than that pick. I hope that you can roast me for years if that doesn't happen. I would love to be roasted for that pick.
Chris, we're an objective pod, and right now, objectively, Boston is easily far and away the best team in the NBA.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they don't really have. It's about Wart Seltzer. I don't know. I mean, even like you said, even their bench, they can defend. They got 2 bona fide star players. They had the recipe for a title.
Yeah. Boston, yeah, they're and they had the experience of getting there last year.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going off the grid. I'm going with something I didn't even mention. I've talked myself into it while we were doing this. I'm taking Dallas.
Oh.
I'm taking Dallas over the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. What are you all on about? Like Luka didn't take his team of less talent to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Not even that. What did they play? I think they played 4 games and they're 2-2 since Kyrie got there.
I'm like, okay, let them see what they got, but at the same time, like Luka,
they don't have anybody else but those 2.
Huh?
They got those 2 guys. That's it.
Who do you have last year?
And where'd they go?
Western Conference Final.
Yeah, but they didn't get to they didn't get over the hump.
Okay, now you got Kyrie. Listen, all I said, all these teams have warts.
Yeah,
all these teams have warts.
I don't mind it.
Any of those teams can win. Any of those 6. I don't think New Orleans can do it anymore because Zion's not healthy. And Golden State, if they put it together, could do it.
I think Memphis would make it before Dallas.
Maybe, but like you could make the case for any of them.
And does that make the Western Conference playoffs a must-see then that we're talking like this? Or does it mean that it's like, let us know who makes it and we'll watch the finals with whoever's in there?
I think it's going to be, they're going to have extremely, extremely competitive series. But again, the elite teams in the East are better than the elite teams in the West. But
so
those
the
teams,
Eastern Conference Finals is a title round. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. It's
but you're gonna see shittier matchups in the first round and then the West. The West, you could potentially have Memphis and Golden State in the first round.
Right.
That's a hell of a first round matchup.
And you're gonna have you can have Clippers Suns right now. Like that's what you got. You're gonna have Kawhi and Paul George against Durant and Booker. That's for a first round.
No, it's gonna be fun. I mean, it's always fun. But NBA playoffs is awesome. It's always fun. But we got to get through these next 25 games or whatever it is first.
Yeah, the Sixers need to stay healthy. So
Yeah.
a lot more basketball talk to come in the future weeks as we move towards the playoffs. We also have March Madness coming up. I don't know if any of us are following enough college hoops to give insight, but we'll sure talk.
I'm trying. Jalen Pickett from Penn State just had 49 and 8 the other night.
Yeah, NIT, dude.
No, we're getting close. We have to beat the teams we need to beat. A win at Northwestern would be huge.
Yeah, and what's his name? I saw he had a nice step. I think I watched him the other night. I think he had 32 and 9 boards, and he almost had a triple double. I think when I was watching him. What's his face? Pickett.
Yeah. So Pickett he just dropped like 70 something in his last 2 games.
Yeah. He's a good player. He's if they make the tournament, he's going to become a household name.
He's really good. He's really
he's
good.
going to definitely boost some NBA stock a little bit too. I think in the process.
Yeah.
So in segment 3 tonight, Al challenged Chris last week.
Let's go.
He wants to challenge his golf knowledge. Is it a golfer or is it a WWE jobber from the 1990s?
I'm challenging you too, Seltzer. And I challenged my wife Casey earlier this week, and I have her records. So we're going to put your records against hers as well.
Look at Al going Apollo Creed. I want you.
We will be right back with golfer versus wrestler. Welcome back to segment 3. And if you're listening live on the podcast and have the availability to get to YouTube, I would highly recommend, as Al did put some visuals together for this contest. But let's jump right into it. Is it a golfer or is it a 90s WWE wrestler? So Chris and I will both be guessing. Chris is going to go first on all of the accounts.
Yeah. So let me. All right. Can you guys see it?
What is
You can see it.
Yeah, what a jobber, golf edition.
All right, so to give a little bit of background, if you didn't listen last week, Chris started naming just some miscellaneous golfers that were playing in the Genesis Invitational, and Adam and I we somehow had like a nugget of information about all of them, and Chris was like, how do you? I'm just trying to come up with a name that you guys never heard of. So off the cuff, I said, I should challenge you. I'm going to put together a list of either professional golfer or wrestling jobber from the 80s and 90s. And for those of you listening at home, if you don't know what a wrestling jobber is, it's a guy who would go and they would get paid to wrestle like one match, and they would
just a good guy to make the guy look better.
Right. And they would always lose. So a jobber is like a I guess the term for a loser. Like I hate to say it that way, but
or it could just be also like nowadays you could even say like just a guy, like a blue collar guy that's not spectacular. He's just like a worker that just does his thing and then that's it. There's nothing special to him.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
My thing though is because of the way my life's going, I might know the guy from wrestling.
Yeah.
And not even consider the golf aspect.
I would be blown away if you know any of these guys. And I'm going to tell you this. After this, I'm going to challenge Adam in a future date to the What a Jobber 90s music edition, where I'll have jobbers or musicians from the 90s.
Oh, I love we got to make this a thing.
You can pick them out.
Yeah, what a jobber. I mean, that's our thing.
The list of jobbers is vast. There were so many when I Googled it. All right,
let's get into it.
Let's kick things off. So this is the first round. The first round is
how many you have?
There's a lot.
Okay. All right, good.
The first round there's only 4, and you're not even going to guess these because these were too obvious for me to even use. So the first one, Pork Chop Cash.
What? That's somebody's name?
Pork Chop Cash. Would you have said that was a golf?
No. This is somebody's name. There's no way.
He was a really good putter.
What do you think, Pork Chop Cash?
Jobber.
Like these don't count. These don't count.
This has got to be a job. Yeah,
Pork Chop Cash. If you're listening to this, you gotta watch it on YouTube this week. You really have to.
Oh my god, I've never heard of that dude.
That's so funny.
Pork Chop Cash was a jobber, I think, in the 80s, judging by the picture, right?
Pork Chop Cash. Is he still with us? This Pork Chop Cash, Mr. Cash.
I don't know. He's kind of built though, man. Look
Yeah.
at him.
He's got
Right.
James Harden before James Harden.
Yeah, a little bit of
Yeah,
Kimbo
yeah.
Slice and James Harden, if
Yeah.
you're listening. All right, the second guy that I had in this round.
Oh, we're off to a blazing start here,
Yeah.
folks. Frogman LeBlanc.
Frogman.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say a golfer that had a nickname Frogman.
No, I gotta go jobber.
I don't think. Well, listen, is it Frogman or Frogman?
Frogman.
He's a jobber. He was a
Sorry
jobber.
for all you guys who are just listening. You need to look at the YouTube for sure. But
Or you
Frogman.
gotta Google these names because so far they both look like what you're probably picturing. All right. Well, I'm going to go through the last two quick here. The next one is Rock Hard Rick. And if you Google this one, be careful. You got to type in.
All right. You can't.
You got to type in
I was
wrestler.
gonna say that's got to be a jobber.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one for the two obvious, even though Guest got one wrong, is just Lorenzo. No other name given. He was a 90s guy in WCW. He was a main event guy.
It was
His
like
face
Billy
is like
Kidman.
he's like, yep, that was my name. What do you want?
That was it. And he was on a lot of times. He was on a bunch of shows.
I want to just hear the intros when they came out though, like Rock Hard Rick.
Imagine showing up that night. You think it's like your big night to break through, and then Vince gives you that friggin' name. Like, you're done.
Pork Chop Cash. What does that even mean? Like he makes a good pork chop? Is that like I don't even know what that means.
Your guess is as good as ours, guest. All right. Round two. These are guys that you actually know. Okay. So the first one is Damon Stryker. Is this a golfer or a jobber?
All right, it's been heavy wrestling right now. So I'm gonna say this guy is a golfer.
Okay.
I'm gonna go wrestler.
Okay. Again, this is the guys you actually know round. Damon Stryker
Edge.
was a jobber in WCW, better known today as Edge.
Wow.
So
How about that?
that's 1 point for Adam, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. That's some good knowledge there.
All right, here's our next one. Gary Watson,
Jesus.
jobber or wrestler?
Is he gonna just go straight jobber in this game?
He might.
You're gonna have a multiple choice question test with all A's as the answers?
Listen, this list was compiled and it was checked thoroughly.
Again, that's gotta be a golfer.
Okay, Chris.
I'm gonna go golfer again. We're due for a golfer, and Gary Watson sounds even too generic for a jobber.
All right, you guys are both correct. It is a golfer also known as Bubba.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. So there you go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bubba Watson.
Dude, your picture game is on point though. These pictures are hilarious.
All right, and the last one for this round is David Heath.
Not to be confused with college basketball coach Mike Heath.
You got golfer or jobber, Chris?
David Heath.
The thought process is
Remember, you know this guy. You actually know him.
I'm gonna say a jobber.
Okay.
I'm gonna go jobber as well.
Guys, you swept that one as well. David Heath is a jobber, also known as Gangrel.
Wow, that's Gangrel.
Yeah, it looks like Jerry the King Lawler, fat version.
That's a tough.
How
look.
old is he?
Must
To be
pretty
fair,
damn
Chris
old.
didn't sweep that category. Chris got one wrong.
No, I got one.
That's true. I'm sorry. So we have 3-2 so far. All right, now we're gonna go a little bit faster. So these are the straight up ones. So there's just names. Okay. So round 3, these are jobber or professional golfer. So the first one we have is Callum Tarrant.
That's a jobber.
Okay.
Callum Tarrant's 100% a golfer.
Callum Tarrant is a golfer with $3.7 million in career.
Oh, so he's legit.
Yeah, he's younger. Canadian, I believe.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think he's Canadian.
English.
English, all right.
English.
Callum. That's a heck of a first name.
3 or 4 years on the tour, I'm going to say. Okay, next one. Sean Spencer.
I'm gonna guess Sean Spencer. I, I'm gonna guess golfer.
Okay.
I'm going jobber.
Adam is correct.
Woo.
Sean Spencer.
Jesus, look at this guy.
Well, we got controversy here. You have SHAWN, and then on the picture it's SEAN.
So it's true. It's spelled both ways. The only picture I could find with the name was SEAN, but the one that was popular was the SHAWN.
So he's such a jobber that they didn't even get his name right.
Yeah,
on
they mixed
the
it up.
screen when he was
Bad.
on the air.
Bad. Well, what do you guys think? That's probably early 90s, right? Early
That's
90s.
probably
Yeah.
the worst wrestling body I've ever seen.
Oh, just wait. Just wait.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this guy. What would you say he looks like? I mean, he is. I don't
Or,
even.
you almost wish you could actually play a snippet of the match to see who he actually jobbed to.
He looks like he could be one of the Godwins.
Oh God, I could see that.
Or like a poor man's DiBiase a little bit.
Yeah, he has no definition whatsoever in his
None.
None. All right, next one. Vito Gomez. Vito Gomez.
I'm gonna say you're mixing Italian and potentially Spanish or Hispanic in there. So it doesn't.
Mom can be Italian. Dad can be.
No, I know, but I'm gonna say a jobber.
I'm gonna
That
go
sounds like a
jobber.
name
I'm
that
going
they just-
jobber as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we got double jobber for Vito Gomez. Vito Gomez is a jobber.
Yeah,
Come
you go.
on.
Look at this
Jobber.
What is that? Is that a video game created character?
He's got the Tito Santana hair. Who would you say, Tito Santana or?
Yeah.
A little Rick Martel.
I was
shape.
thinking Rick Martel too, but it's not really Rick Martel.
This dude had a build though on him a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah.
You know?
He you almost wonder what these guys like. What was the moment when they went from having dreams still to being like, I'm just a jobber? Like, what did they not do right that they just got put into that category all of a sudden? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
If you're pork chop cash, it was out of the gate. Out of the gate.
It sounds like it should be a Netflix documentary series about jobber.
Oh no,
wrestlers.
what's that series called? Outside the ring. What's the one on Vice?
Inside the
Oh,
ropes.
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. Just Vito Gomez.
Straight
Dark
up,
Side of the
just
Ring.
straight, yeah, just straight jobbers.
This
What
week
happened?
on Dark Side of the Ring, Lorenzo. All right, next one. We have Bronson Burgoon.
Good.
That's got to be a jobber.
Not to be confused with Typhoon.
That's got to be a jobber. The alliteration and everything. That's got to be a jobber.
Bronson Burgoon is a golfer.
Yeah, I knew Seltzer would know this one.
Oh my god.
Bronson Burgoon is a golfer. His best finishes, he had 2 runner-up finishes in 2018, but hasn't really done much.
It looks like it could be a trick question. He could also be a jobber that golfs.
The picture
Based on the
looks like
picture.
remember when Barry Darso was the evil
Yeah.
golfer? It's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, he looks like he could probably run the what's the expression? Run the ropes. Run the ropes a little bit.
So let's update. Adam has 7 correct. Chris has 3.
I'm perfect.
No, I got more than that.
You have 3, dude. You have 3.
I just got 2, and I had 2 the first round.
No, you had
You got Gary Watson.
Gary Watson, David Heath, and then you just got Vito Gomez. That's it.
And Burgoon.
No, you said job.
Oh no, I did say
Jobber.
that's right. That's right. You're right. Okay.
All right. Next one. I think you'll get this one, Chris. Todd Overbow.
That's a real name.
The name. That's on someone's birth certificate.
That's got to be a real name. Todd Overbow. And with this shot, Todd Overbow will go into 54th place.
Overbow on the T.
Do you know Seltzer?
I don't, but I'm gonna make a guess.
This guy sounds like he was on the production crew and a jobber called out and they threw him in the ring.
He was behind the camera. They were like,
Yeah.
Todd, get in the ring.
Like, what do you want me to do? I'm not even supposed to be in here. I'm gonna say jobber.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Chris. I think he's a jobber.
All right. You are both correct. Todd
There you go.
Look at that
And
mullet.
he looks like as I described. He looks like a roadie that got into the ring.
Look at that mullet, man.
that facial expression. Yeah, he looks like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Yeah,
I wish I knew who these guys were up against.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
All right. Next one.
He was definitely staring straight up at Kamala in that picture.
Maverick McNeely.
Oh man.
Maverick McNeely.
So it sounds like a jobber, but I can see that being a golfer name too.
Okay.
Maverick McNeely. I'm going to say golfer.
Adam.
Not only is Maverick McNeely a golfer, he's a pretty good golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's married to Danielle Kang.
False. They broke up, I believe.
Did they really?
Yeah, I think I'm almost positive they broke up. I don't think they were ever married. They were just dating.
Oh, they were married. Okay.
Well,
Maverick McNeely.
forgive my ignorance. Who is Danielle Kang?
She's on the LPGA tour. She's like a outspoken, like
She's good though.
personality, loud.
She wins like one or two a year. Like
Yeah,
she
she's a
actually
good
can back
golfer.
up.
She's not like Paige Spiranak, Al's girl.
No, she's
No.
not. Mav McNeely's a golfer. He was the #1 ranked amateur in 2016. He almost gave up golf then, as early as 2016, to go into business.
To be a jobber, actually. And he could have kept his name. Been a win-win.
All right, so you both got that one right. That brings the score here. I have Adam with 9 and Chris with 5, and I have 4 left in this round, and then there's only one more round after this.
All right, so Seltzer's got a job, so I can
Hey.
back in this. Ted
All right.
Grizzly's a golfer.
We have Ted Grizzly.
That's a golfer.
I think he's a jobber.
Yes.
Oh, also
Ted Grizzly's a jobber, obviously. he looks like what was Huckleberry Jim?
Hillbilly Jim. He looks like Hillbilly Jim.
Wait a minute. What was up with the wrestling in that period where they thought that hillbillies was in? Like that was a good look for like overalls and beards.
What's the guy behind them doing?
Dude, that's why in this thing I have also maybe a Messiah. He's praising him. I don't know what he's doing.
I thought you were saying like that was his other like wrestling alias.
No, that might be Todd Overbow behind him.
He looks like he could be like a god gimmick.
Yeah, what made you say golfer that fast?
I could have sworn I seen Grizzly on a scoreboard.
This dude.
I didn't know if it's Ted or not, but I could have sworn I saw Grizzly before.
Oh, I thought this was an obvious one, man. All right. Well, Chris gets no points there. Next one. Matt Every.
Now see, they could have made like the wrestling jobber and had him like every man, like Matt Every Man Every. That's got to be a golfer. That sounds too cornball to be a jobber. I'll say golfer.
Matt Every's a golfer.
Matt Every is a golfer, a 2-time winner.
He's snapping though in that picture. Screw this! I should have wrestled.
A 2-time winner of the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Back to back.
I said his name was a it should have been a better jobber name.
Yeah,
every man Matt Every.
All right, we got 2 left, guys, in this round. Van Horn.
Not to be confused with Keith.
Van Horn.
Or former WCW legend Van Hammer.
Van Hammer, yeah.
That's got to be a jobber, right? No one's got the real name Van. That's got to be a jobber. But then why would they have it? Why would they have it as Van?
There's a guy in my district. He's a high school teacher. His name is Will Williams.
Who's the volleyball player back in the days? Be Allen Allen.
Yeah, I remember that. Van Horn. That's got to be a jobber. I'm going with jobber.
All right. This is the first time.
For his sake, I hope it's a jobber.
This is the first time I'm going to go against my instincts because I've basically been, if I don't know the name, I'm going jobber. But I just have a feeling this is a golfer.
Wow. This is a jobber.
Ah!
Yeah, that's got jobber all over it. Van Horn.
He borrowed the robe from Flair, though. He must be
Yeah,
one of
he's got a nice wardrobe.
You got that box cut.
Yeah, dude.
Good old boy, Van Horn.
All right, last one in this round.
How many of these guys are still alive, the jobber guys?
Probably not many, dude, because they were getting that free Ico Pro back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, the last one for this round is Rusty Brooks.
That's a golfer.
I'm going to go back to my instincts. I don't know that name. I'm going to go jobber.
Rusty Brooks is a jobber who has
Look at these guys.
He has wrestled Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Does he got any wins in that?
No, 0 wins.
He looks like Otis.
Yeah.
Guy now that wrestles.
If you are listening, you should go onto YouTube and watch this segment because these pictures are hilarious.
Look at his partner. Like he loved him some Rusty Brooks.
The guy in the back is loving it.
He thought Rusty had a really good shot.
Guy in the back's a little Frank Ivanonish, a little bit.
A little bit. Our little Ern friend of the pod. Yeah, Rusty Brooks is something else, man. That's a
and not only were they jobbers, but then they gave him like the most generic jobber ring attire too. Like he's just wearing like a wrestling unitard.
Yeah, that thing's reused. That thing's used.
Yeah, that's probably his from high school. He probably just freaking put it on, and this guy's probably like 24, believe it or not, in that picture.
That's true too. That's true.
Like if you really these guys are all older, like younger than they look all the time.
That's probably one of Earthquake's like used singlets. They just put it inside out. All right, so we have one more round, and it's round 4 is called Separated at Birth. And the way this round works is I'm going to give you 2 names, and you have to tell me which is the jobber and which is the golfer. So I'm giving you both names at the same time. Okay? All right. Chris, you got to go first.
What's the score right now?
The score is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for Adam and 7 for you.
Yeah,
right,
Mr.
So this one, I know Cam Champ's a golfer.
So we have Joe Champ and Cam Champ.
Yeah, so Cam Champ's the golfer, Joe Champ's the jobber.
I agree with Chris.
Okay. Pretty easy one. Lay up to start.
Yeah.
Joe Champ.
Jobber Joe Champ.
Is the jobber. Rocking. He kind of looks like Crush.
Yeah, a little yep.
With the mullet, but he has a mustache.
Look how small that singlet is. Look at that. What was that from, like Modell's?
Yeah, V-neck.
That's from high school.
Singlet.
That's the one he wore in high school. He just brought it with him.
Jesus.
And then Cam Champ, obviously the golfer, 3 PGA Tour wins.
Yeah, great for Cam. Go back to Joe for a second. He looks like he also looks like Brutus the Barber Beefcake a little bit.
He had the same hair.
A little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if we had actual wrestlers watching this and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, Rusty Rogers and Joe Champ, they were good. They took a good bump."
You know what? You know what? I'll look some of these guys up. I'll see if I can't tweet them.
Get them on the
pod. Why not?
See if maybe we can get Joe Champ on the show next week.
Yeah, Joey Champ.
All right, the next one. These could be relatives of other stars that we know. We have Nick Hardy and Barry Hardy.
The Hardy Boys.
Possible relation to Jeff and Matt.
Or the Hardy Boy Detectives.
So, Chris, we have Nick and Barry Hardy. Who's the jobber and who's the golfer?
Barry sounds more like a wrestler. So I'm gonna say Nick is the golfer. Nick Hardy's the golfer. Barry Hardy's the jobber.
Okay.
Chris is correct. Nick Hardy's the golfer.
Nick Hardy is the golfer. He tied for 14th in last year's U.S. Open. Barry Hardy is the jobber. He also teamed with Dwayne Gill, a.k.a.
Oh, And he was shorter than Gilbert?
5'11", 240.
I think that's the depth perception in that picture. But
Was
there's,
Gilbert jumping in that picture?
there's a few pictures of them together. They tagged more than once.
But what the hell was Tiger King's name?
Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic right there.
Looks like
Yeah.
Joe Exotic. That's good.
Very Joe Exotic. Both of them.
Uh,
Barry and Dwayne Gill.
Chris, I think you're down one. I don't know if you can. I think you've run out of time here, but we still have two left. Last two here. We have L.A. Gore and Jason Gore.
I think this is too easy. So it's L.A. Gore sounds like the wrestler, but I think that's what you want me to think.
Reverse psychology.
Not to be confused with Al Gore, the inventor of the internet. I'm going to say,
Are they both golfers?
That'd be a twist.
I'm going to say L.A. Gore is the golfer, aka the bull Lag. I'm going to say Lag's the golfer, and Jason Gore is the jobber.
If it looks like a fish, smells like a fish, it's probably a fish. Jason Gore's the golfer. L.A. Gore's the jobber.
Adam is correct again.
Oh,
L.A. Gore.
Is that
Val
draws?
It
Look
looks
at
like
the fink in the back.
a little DDP and a little Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you what.
That was like a big boy.
His pits are shaved perfectly. Look at that.
L.A. Gore that's why he was brought in to help the boys shave their.
Yeah, there's women that don't even shave their pits as good as that.
It looks like the Fink is getting a nice close look at those.
Yeah, he
boys.
is.
Yeah.
The Fink was the GOAT, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think the Fink was the GOAT ringing out.
This was the goat.
Yeah, definitely.
You do
And
a
then
good Fink impersonation, Chris.
I could, but I'm a little congested. But you see now, rest in peace to the Fink. I wish he was still alive that we could have helped us with this segment. It is now time for the jobber or golfer. It's a bad one because I'm not really having a good throat day, but that would have been a nice segment for him to introduce for us. But yeah, this guy looks rough, man.
He's a big boy.
And he was ahead of his time with the copper tone on his forearms.
And this is the Monday Night Raw logo from what, like 94 or
Yeah,
so?
that's
the
early.
original.
Yeah, it's the original.
He might have been going up against like a Tatanka or something here.
A Razor Ramon.
Yeah. But this guy's definitely a heel. So he was definitely at the face.
Did you know that Raw was an acronym?
For what?
Real American Wrestling.
Really?
What?
Yeah. I just found this out like a couple weeks ago.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Did they ever say that on the air?
I don't think they've ever because Raw sounds so much better and it's no questions asked. Like no one's like, that's probably an acronym. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, it makes sense. Like, what does Raw mean in general?
Like where would they come up with Raw for? You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's what it apparently what it meant or what it means.
There's a good knowledge drop right there.
Well, moving. Jason Gore was the golfer, as Adam said, one PGA Tour win, but this is the one where kind of was like he's not active on the tour anymore. He's older. I think he's 50. So
he looks like he's the boss of like the Dick's Sporting Goods.
He looks like Rusty Brooks.
Yeah,
Rusty Brooks grew up and became a golfer.
Yeah, he got his life together.
All right, this is the last one for our inaugural What a Jobber segment. We have Dale Wolf and Dusty Wolf.
Why is there a split under there? Is it?
I'll be honest, Chris. This is going to be 100% a guess for me. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this one.
I can hear Jim Nantz saying Dusty Wolf. Dusty Wolf finishing making the cut. Dusty, don't call me Bayo Wolf. Yeah, I'm gonna say Dusty's the golfer. And Dale is the jobber.
I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna go Dale as the golfer.
Okay. Dale Wolf is the jobber and looks looks ecstatic to be in the ring.
It looks
That
like
has to
Glass
be a-
Joe from Punch Out.
That has to be a wig.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a hairstyle.
Dude, but I don't know. Back then, that was the cut.
Maybe.
Like it's a risk to wear a wig, and then that comes off in the middle of the match. Your life and your career is over.
That's true.
At that point.
That's true.
Well, I kind of foreshadowed it. I had to throw one curveball at you guys.
Oh,
Steve Wolf.
Is it the same guy? It is the same guy.
Dusty Wolf is also a jobber, and he's also the same guy, just with his haircut.
He literally has the same face in the
So
picture.
you each get a point for our final what a jobber of the last round there.
Is that a bird nest?
well, the real question is who won, Casey or Guest?
Well, I did switch it up. Like I added more to this than I did with Casey, but Guest ended with 12 points tonight. Casey had 11. So Guest did win if we're just going head to head.
Wait, what did
Adam,
Zeltzer have?
Adam, you had 18 points if I'm counting this correctly.
Yeah, I missed one.
Yeah, 18 points. So good job by you.
Ooh, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. We got to make that a regular segment, but mix it up with
Different things.
As I was doing it, because some of the jobber names are so outrageous. Like it's just obvious that they're. Well, I thought it was going to be obvious that they were a jobber, but Chris proved me wrong.
Pork Chop Cash had to be a job. Like there was no way there was a guy on tour named Pork Chop.
You thought Frogman LeBlanc was a golfer.
Dude, you can start second guessing yourself out there.
So next time I'll do jobber or musician from the 90s.
All right, that'll be fun. But that was it for tonight. So we got through the doldrums of February with some good conversation and some good fun. We will be back next week with episode 34. So stay tuned. And until then, let's drop that beat.